Well, the morning show today will be top-heavy on issues around budget implementation, tax reform and administration in Nigeria, stepping up from a week during which President Bola Tinubu took his time to assent to the 4 tax reform bills recently passed by the National Assembly and which is designed to take effect from the 1st of January 2026. The administration said this was necessary because existing tax laws are outdated and disproportionately impacting the poor. Arise business correspondent Rotus Odiri sent this summary of the highlights of the new act.
President Bola Tinubu has assented to the 4 tax reform acts recently passed by the National Assembly. The acts are Nigeria Tax Administration Bill, Nigeria Revenue Service Establishment Bill, and the Joint Revenue Board Establishment Bill. In his address to reporters, the chairman of the Federal Inland Revenue Service, Zach Adediji, said the following: "It takes time for all the stakeholders, participants, operators, and the regulator to change the system. So, with the magnanimity of the National Assembly, Mr. President assented to the bills. So the effective date will be January the 1st of 2026. We have 6 full months for both sensitization and planning. This is also considering the fiscal year of the government, because when you have this kind of change, it's not what you do in the media." Here's what we know about the key reforms in the bills. For the Nigeria Tax Act, it swaps multiple rules into a single tax code. It also eliminates smaller overlapping taxes. For reforms in the Tax Administration Act, common rules are now set for tax collection, and that's across federal, state, and local governments. For the reforms in the Revenue Service Act, the Federal Inland Revenue Service has now been replaced with a new body, the Nigeria Revenue Service, the NRS. As for the reforms in the Joint Revenue Board Act, it creates a tax ombudsman and a new tax tribunal to resolve disputes. So what are the intended benefits for these reforms? It's supposed to be felt mostly by low-income earners. Those earning ₦1 million or less get 200,000 naira rent relief. There's a VAT exemption on food, healthcare, education, and rent. SMEs who earn below 50 million naira in turnover per year are exempted from company income tax. And for larger companies, the company income tax of 30% is supposed to be gradually reduced to 25% over a number of years. By making the tax code easier to digest, the Tinubu administration hopes it can increase tax compliance and raise the nation's tax-to-GDP ratio, currently just over 10%, to 18% by 2026. All eyes on fiscal year 2026. For Arise News, Rotus Odiri.
Indeed, and for the second time, the Senate has amended the 2024 national budget, extending the validity of the capital component of the budget by another 6 months. With this amendment, the capital component will now expire on December 31st, 2025, rather than end of June. Arise correspondent Omo Bazuaye tells us more.
Senate returns to plenary on Tuesday after a long summer break, and calling for their attention is a bill to amend the 2024 Appropriation Act and extend the validity of its capital component for a second time. The 2024 budget expires in less than a week, prompting the Senate to suspend its rules, allowing it to hasten the amendment of the 2024 Appropriation Act, achieving the extension by another 6 months from 30th June to the 31st of December in record time. In his late debate, Chairman of the Senate Committee on Appropriations, Solomon Olamilekon, explains that the extension had become necessary to avoid a case of abandoned projects.
And due to some projects which are yet to be funded and implemented, we find it very important to come before these ALO chambers that this budget be extended by further 6 months.
Olamilekon's explanation wasn't that convincing to many of the senators who insisted on having an interface with the Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, Wale Edu, to ascertain the true state of affairs. There were even allegations that the Finance Minister and the Accountant General of the Federation are cherry-picking projects to execute.
Coupled with the financial inflow challenges that the government experienced, there is a need to extend the capital component of this budget. We must know
the problem so that we can address the problem together. And so, Mr. President, I suggest that the payment practice must be unbundled.
The Committee on Appropriation and Finance should investigate the recurring dismal of non-implementation of the capital component.
Even when he accepted in principles that the validity of the budget should be extended, Senator Siriaki Dixon believes there is more to it and suggesting that government's business seems to be gradually grinding to a halt.
Today has not given compelling reasons why this extension has become necessary. And I don't want to hazard any guess. But from this aisle, you all know what is happening. Maybe there is too much preoccupation with politics and 2027. Maybe there is too much concentration on receiving defectors all across the country because the business of the Nigerian people, for which we were all elected, all of us and the President of the Federal Republic, is not moving forward. That is the reason this motion and this bill has become necessary.
The latest extension of the 2024 budget comes with the lifespan of the 2025 budget already halfway through and with less than 4 months to the submission of the 2026 budget. Omo Bazwai, Arise News.
Well, that was quite a handful, to be honest, but it's also necessary for us to create the right atmosphere for our conversation. Now, before we move to the conversation with our next guest, I think we should talk about what has happened this week. The 2024 budget has been extended the validity has been extended to the end of December 2025. And some people argue that it causes confusion and it shows a lack of cohesion, and planning amongst the government, and it could lead to waste when you're running multiple budgets concurrently. And it's not the first time it's happened in Nigeria's history. Of course, we have seen this type of behavior happen before, but it seems to show a bit of a lack of efficiency, rather, in part of our government and how it's running. And as Senator Dixon rightly said on the floor, it seems there's a lot of focus on politicking and welcoming new members, and we're not getting to the actual business, the tedious work of actually governing the people and doing the work that's necessary. On the other hand, we saw the president sign the tax bills, the 4 tax bills that went through a huge, very long process before they got here, but also signed it in some are arguing is record time to pass such comprehensive legislation that really upends our tax regime system. And while on one hand people are saying, oh, it's good we simplify the system, some people are raising concerns about the new power that the NRS would hold as such a very powerful body now, the Nigerian Revenue Service. And of course, people also want to know, what is the tax going to be used for? Is it going to improve our infrastructure, our healthcare, our education, or is it going to be more wasteful spending, like increasing the budget validity and running concurrent budgets and maybe putting things in the budget that should not be there?
Yeah, absolutely, Adesu. I mean, those are two very important developments in, the annals of Nigerian financial infrastructure. Everybody that means well for Nigeria must pay attention to what is going on, particularly the aspect of, the budget extension for the 2024 budget. Each time that many people see the chairman of the Finance Committee, Yayi, they call him in political circles, Senator Olamilekan, what comes to mind for many people is lawful illegality. Because this is not the first time that he will stand up on the floor of the Senate to canvass for this kind of extension. He did it, I think, about twice or thereabout during the Buhari administration, when this sort of mess started, extending the lifespan of a budget that ought to have expired. And what we are having now is not fine at all. It is not nice. In about a week or thereabout, in a few days, the extension originally granted, the 2024 budget, ought to be expiring. But then we saw people rush down back to the Senate to say, oh no, we're not done. with 2024 budget, even though we're supposed to be 6 months halfway into the current 2025 budget, that we've got no idea how it's performing. And then we are given an extension of 6 additional months, which therefore means that the capital component of the 2024 budget will run another, a whole 12-month cycle together with the 2025 budget. I do not know where else outside of Nigeria, and this is not something that I often like to say, because when people drop the cliche of, oh, only in Nigeria, you can see that no, when things happen, it's not only in Nigeria. But when it comes to this sort of lawful illegality, because you can see that there's a legal backing to it, but then to which textbook in economy, to which textbook in tax administration, in budget implementation, either public or private sector, will you have a budget of the previous year running concurrently for a whole year with the other budget? I do not know it. If there is an example, and you know that some of the folks in the National Assembly are very adept at telling us that, oh, it's not only in Nigeria, it happens
in Belarus.
I don't know about Belarus, but it's interesting. So this is something that it should worry us.